How's it going, guys? Oddly Unorthodox here. The basis of this video is I'm going to be talking to you guys on how someone would pick up Total Warhammer 3 multiplayer, and it's also there for people that may be campaign fanatics but have not really ventured in the multiplayer but want to learn how. So I'm going to be going through a few different guide tips. I won't be going massively into detail, mainly because they could do with being videos on their own. You know, if you would like me to do a more detailed guide, let me know and I will make a huge, long, detailed guide to show you guys. And as always with my videos, I'm talking to you guys from the experience that I have gained from playing the game. Some of my opinions might not seem right to you, or, you know, sometimes you may think you know better, which is more than possible. It's a good thing about this game that there is opinions in play. And as long as we can talk about them and not turn it into a massive argument, then it's a positive place to speak those opinions. So first and foremost, say for example you are looking at playing multiplayer and you've never played multiplayer before, you've only played a little bit of campaign and you've booted up the game, gone into your first multiplayer game and thought, right, what do I want to play? Race selection is key. At first, it's not important that you look at what faction counters what faction, or how does this faction play into that one, you know, does it work well with my teammates? Think about how you want to play the game. That is the most important thing at the start, is for you to figure out, because each race has different sort of aesthetics, mechanics applied to them. Obviously, I won't go into too much detail on that. But a few examples, the Empire is always said to be quite a good starting race due to the fact they've got a nice balanced roster. They don't excel in any field, but they have artillery, they have good ranged units, they've got good cavalry, good frontline units. So really quite a good starter faction. Dwarfs, in my opinion, are probably the best starter faction. The only issue is that it doesn't teach you how to use cavalry, because the dwarfs have none. Obviously Chaos Dwarfs do, but normal plain dwarfs, they're easy to play. They've got they've got units that allow you to have a lot of mistakes in front of you and you can still do quite well. Dwarven squads, per rule of thumb, won't mind being in combats that they're not exactly winning, and they will stay there for quite a while, so it makes them a lot less sort of micro heavy, because you don't have to physically be watching them 24/7 and cycling through as you would with some of the more glass cannon factions. For example, if you're playing Khorne, you don't want to leave your Khorne Minotaurs in combat. They're losing heavily because it's an expensive unit you're not going to get much out of. Same with Way Watchers and stuff like that. So Empire's good, Dwarf's good. Vampire Counts, I think, is a bit of a harder faction to play, just because obviously they've got no missile units. Their faction mechanics really heavy orientate around a sort of regeneration and passive healing sort of builds. They've got some really nutty units. But like I said, going back to the beginning, the easiest ones in my opinion are Dwarfs and Empire. Now, regardless of what I've said, I want you guys to play what you enjoy the most. If you're a history buff and you love cavalry charges, go play Bretonnia. They're not an easy faction to play, but you put enough time in and you'll learn how to play them. You're a big fan of scaly reptiles? Hey, go play Lizardmen. They've got some awesome units. They've got the biggest, baddest lizard in the form of the Shredder of Lustria, and in general, a hoot to play. Are they going to be dead easy and you can pick them up straight away? No, you're going to have to learn a little bit, but that's the fun of playing multiplayer. So this is my sort of point on race selection. If you want to learn an easier way, go Empire or Dwarfs. But in my opinion, play what you think is fun, else you're not going to enjoy playing it. So my next tip is on how to make a balanced army list. So when you're forming an army and you're deciding what to use, obviously you can do this before you go into the game, by the way. You can make private lists, save them, and then you can just load them as you choose in game. Which I do recommend. But an idea behind a balanced list is making sure that you don't have 10 squad of ranged units, a lord, a hero, and then 4 cavalry and 4 artillery. a good list, obviously this is very decisive on the faction that you're playing, but a roundabout way of looking at it is you should have enough front line to protect your ranged, and then I always go for 2 sweeper units to defend my artillery. Now I'm going to give you some examples. If I'm running, say for example, you're playing dwarfs, and I want to take 2 cannons. So straight away in my head I'm thinking, right, I'm going to take 2 squads of slayers. Slayers fulfilling my sweeper role. That's so if cavalry does sneak round the back, anything gets summoned on top of them, anything flies over to attack them, the artillery, there's slayers there to protect them. That's what I like to call my sweeper unit. They run around the back and they clear everything up if I need. Sweeper units ideally should be a bit on the fast side, and that's why slayers do well in this role, because they are fast for dwarfs. And then what I'd go for next is I want a lord that benefits my army. All dwarf lords are good in my opinion. I think Thorgrim is probably the best one. In my opinion, I think he's the strongest. The buffs that he brings to the team is unreal. So he's a real good place to start. And then you're thinking, right, let's take 4 quarrelers, because you want some ranged firepower. So you've got your hero, 2 cannons, 2 slayers, 4 quarrelers, taking up to 9 units. So then you can easily go 3 dwarf warriors, 3 longbeards, and then maybe something special to put in there if you fancy bringing a hero or something a little bit different. And that gives you a nice balanced army. The reason I did say that this can change depending on what faction you play is because, for example, if you want to do a wood elf rush like I tend to do, you forego the use of any infantry in the form of Eternal Guard. You just take 3 squads of Way Watchers, but you forego that with cavalry. You take a large amount of cavalry to overcome the fact that you've got no front line. I also bring Orion because I think he helps with that as well. So a good list is my next tip. To go with this as well, make sure you do not spend all your money on fancy artillery, fancy ranged units, and then put the weakest melee units you can up front, because they will fold. And then all of your units are going to be running away trying to shoot. Ranged units are only good and they only make their money back if they get the opportunity to shoot. Them using their ammo is how you get value out of them, as simply as I can put it. So you need to protect them, you need to cover them. And then how to set up your armies in comparison to how you want to play. So this ties into the point that really I've just made, and that's the fact that know what faction you're playing, decide on how you want to play that faction, and then go from there. That's how I like to see it. For example, if I'm going for an army that I want to absolutely run at the enemy, bulldoze them, I'm not going to take loads of ranged units. I want my expensive units in the infantry. I want tough, hard-hitting units. Grouping. So for anyone that doesn't know or is new to Battle in Total War, you can shift-click your squads and group them. In my opinion, this is a really beginner-friendly mechanic. I still use it. I think it really helps with you being able to group the things that you want to keep together. So, for example, I group a cannon and a slayer unit together, just so they're next to each other and it's nice and easy. But you can also group all of your front lines, so you can move all your frontline warriors in one go and then click them individually if you want them to split off. I think it's quite beginner friendly and it helps quite a lot instead of you having to individually click all squads if you're just trying to move up in a front line. My next tip is cutting magic and items from units. So what I mean by this is, if you're playing, you can see it really common in when I play Nurgle. The way I play Nurgle, especially if I take Festus, I cut a lot of his magic spells out. Because, one, that allows me to put chevrons on my chosen, or if I'm at 400 gold, I can cut a spell off and bring some Chaos Marauders of Nurgle and put some more bodies on the board. If I know that I'm going for a build where I'm just going to be using Fleshy Abundance and the Boil spell, then they're just the 2 spells I'll take and I'll cut off the other ones, giving me some more value. If you look at an item, the Chaos Dwarf, for example, their lords, you can choose to put a reload skill on them, but if your lord's going to be straight up in the melee, you're not going to want the reload skill, so you're going to take the gold instead. And it's just little benefits like this that will allow you to bring an extra squad here, an extra squad there, or put chevrons on units that really could do with them. For now, that gives you a little bit of an insight on how to play Total Warhammer 3, the multiplayer side. If you guys want me to do a really in-depth guide, let me know, and I'll sit and I'll make a script, and it'll probably be an hour and a half long, but I'll sit there and make a really in-depth guide if you guys would enjoy that. I'm putting this sort of out as a tester theory to see if you guys would like more information how to play multiplayer, or if it's even warranted. So make sure you let me know, leave me a like, comment, subscribe if you've enjoyed it. This has been Oddly Unorthodox, and I'll catch you on the next one.